Hey, there's a few ideas I'd like to share today. One of them is an axiom that basically states that subtraction reveals invisible solutions. And the idea is that there are basically solutions everywhere. They're in the air, they're hovering around, there's an infinite number of them, and for whatever reason we don't see them. But what happens, say for example with cars and fossil fuels? If the cars were all removed tomorrow, people would create solutions to work around that without them. They might grow food in suburban settings, walk more, create smaller systems like villages, things like that, which of course exist in other parts of the world as well. So this can apply to a lot of different situations. Subtraction reveals invisible solutions. Now, also, there's so much going on right now, the political arena, and I notice that with your coverage on the media, a lot of videos will begin with things like RFK lashes out or slams this or that, and it's like you're not lashing out or slamming anything, but they're hyping everything up to amplify the drama. And that sort of situation to try to increase viewership by creating conflict and division and things like that is fairly typical, and it also ties into the psychology of people today as well. Now, psychology is very interesting, and anthropology, sociology, things like that. If we tried to find, like with medicine for example, we have an idea of what optimal health is, and then we try to pull people, get people toward that. Now, with societies, what would be optimal health for a society? And apparently the most healthy society ever studied by anthropologists was indigenous people, specifically Australian Aborigines, who were around for over 100,000 years. And all the aspects of their society and culture, how they did things, how they interacted, their customs and everything else, compared to us, they're extremely sophisticated and extremely practical. Basically, everything that they did worked extremely well. Not that they didn't have little problems here and there, they did, but had their system not worked, they would not have been around for 100,000 years. And the way that we're doing things, it's not likely that we will be, our culture will be around that long. Now, there are many things that we do in our culture that we take for granted, and schooling is one of them. But to contrast with Aborigines, what Aborigines, they didn't put children in schools. The children were simply allowed to be completely free, unjudged, and learn by observation. So they basically just saw what the adults were doing and learned that way. And what we do is children don't learn by observation, they learn by memorization in school, all kinds of facts and things like that, which largely are not applied to anything later in life. And they are judged and tested, and they are pressured. And so these pressures, 12 years of school or more, plus in the family, you know, clean your room, do this and do that, or else we will withhold approval and love and things. It has a traumatic effect on people. So we see this in politics, we see it everywhere. When you see someone, for example, in the political arena who is angry, upset, divisive, where is that coming from? Well, in a psychological sense, it's coming from that child. Now, the inner child is also called the core self, and that's age 1 to 7. So that never changes, apparently, and whatever happens to people during that time influences their later life. Now, there are more aspects of psychology. Another one is the subconscious, which also is like the man behind the curtain steering events during the conscious waking hours. Now, there's another little known discipline called systems theory or general systems theory, which describes how systems work. And the main takeaway from that, I believe, is that small systems tend to function the best, Large systems tend to function in failure mode. Now, a small system could be, for example, a family. So a family functions quite well unless one parameter is altered, like, for example, sending mom to work, and then you have latchkey children and things begin to fall apart. The large systems, on the other hand, tend to function in failure mode. And this applies very much to governments, economies, things like that, because they are moving forward through time. They're causing things to happen. So in a sense, they give the illusion that they're functioning, but in fact, they are in failure mode. And so what happens with people in general is that we bear the brunt of the failure in many, many ways. Now, also, systems, we like to generalize about systems into a word to make things very easy. Well, I'm this, I'm a Republican or Democrat or a communist or socialist or capitalist. To go deeper, no one's views are that simplistic. So things are very complex. So even in our society, people may claim that we're capitalistic, but we have many elements of socialism and communism. So families are like communism. Things are shared and not sold to children, their meals, for example. Socialism, you know, we have public libraries and things like that as well. So here again, these disciplines are interrelated. So the psychology of why it is easier to choose a simplistic model and then use it as part of your identity is what happens a lot. Now, what happens with man on earth and these systems that we have and these ideas and so on is there's a whole vast universe out there which has nothing to do with our mental sub-universes, as it could be called. So this is what happens when people adopt ideas and live in their heads with these ideas and use the ideas to validate who they are, or they believe that that's what happens. These are the types of things that I think are important to know. I've learned about them in different places over the years because I am trying to find solutions myself, but I don't want to make this too long. If you have any questions about any of these things, I can supply resources or I'm available to talk more.